Hello and welcome to the 54th episode of the Accountant's Success Secrets podcast. I'm Mark Lee, mentor, speaker and debunker.
And I'm Philippa Haynes of Insight 101, supporting you to stand out. Each week on the podcast, we showcase another accountant or bookkeeper who has been running their own practice for a good few years and who we think can inspire and encourage other accountants and bookkeepers in practice around the UK.
We ask them to share their stories, including the highs, the lows, and what they've learned along the way. Our aim is to provide some fundamental insights for you, our loyal listener. And if you'd like to share your story in a similar way, do please get in touch with Philippa or me. We're now taking bookings for late June.
We are indeed. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yep.
So today we are delighted to introduce Isobel Chaplin, or an AAT and ACCA qualified accountant who runs IJC Finance, based in Colchester, Essex. The firm provides all the usual accountancy services to growing businesses, including sole traders, partnerships, and limited companies. Before setting up her practice in 2019, Isobel spent 16 years working in the corporate sector as a management accountant and finance manager.
Welcome, Isobel. Is there anything you'd like to add to that brief intro?
No, I think that's a pretty good introduction of where I started. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Very good. We're going to hear lots more about it, including about makeup, I hear. So just before we start, though, a word about our sponsor, Pinnacle Global, a trusted outsourcing partner with well over 150 clients across the UK and Ireland. Pinnacle CEO Mayank Pandya is a chartered accountant based in London, and he has a passion to encourage innovation and excellence in the accounting profession. Pinnacle has offices in the UK and offshore delivery centres across India, employing over 300 high-quality staff. With a strong focus on quality assurance, Pinnacle has helped many UK accounting firms to scale their capacity and operations. So to find out more, please visit www.pinnacleoss.co.uk. You'll also find the link online wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And indeed, Pinnacle's support of the podcast may be expanding shortly. I was chatting with him yesterday at the Digital Accounting Show, and
fabulous.
So we'll be proceeding with that. Also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. I bet you're pleased it's me trying to say this.
Exactly.
It's free to use. You just pay the tax advisor that you choose after agreeing terms with them. Go take a look at their website, which you can also find at findataxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips, which are written especially for general practitioner accountants.
Right, it's time to go back to our guest, Isobel. As you know, we aim to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing the discussion around a few key questions. Over to you, Mark. Let's go.
Right, so let's go back to the start, Isobel. How and why did you come to set up your own accounting practice?
So 2019, I had been back at work for 3 or 4 years after having my daughter. She was approaching school age, so she was due to start school in the September of that year. And apart from the problem that a lot of people will have, thinking, how on earth do parents manage a full-time job and school? That was one of the things that led to the decision. But also, I had been working in industry since leaving university, early 2000s. Gives away my age, but hey. And I was at a point where I'd worked in companies for a long amount of time, and I'd been looking at figures for businesses that were managed by a set of investors, and then another set of investors, and I found it was getting to the point where I I was really looking to help people I could actually meet face to face. So
And
where
relate
I was providing,
meet and relate to, I assume.
yes, exactly. So obviously I was working very well with the team as you know, as management accountant, finance manager. My clients were the management team of the business I was working in, but I never really knew who the overall, who was benefiting from all of this at the end. I never really got to meet those people, and I felt there was something missing. I really wanted to get more involved with helping people who I'd pass on the street, for example, people who were in a similar position to me, I think. So when I initially made the decision to move away from working in the corporate environment, the initial idea was that I would go and offer sort of management accounts and bookkeeping support to small businesses. But as things changed, it kind of became doing a bit of everything, really. So it kind of became doing the whole accounts process, up to submitting and finalising accounts and offering management account support and other areas of tax. So that was in the I officially started in the October of 2019, a month after my daughter went to school. So it kind of worked out quite well, really, with the timings of things.
Yeah.
And how did you go about getting your initial clients?
So I was very fortunate, actually, when I had made the decision to leave my last job. I've always said it. I really, really loved everybody I used to work with, including all the management team and everybody who ran the company. Absolutely great bunch of people. So it was a very difficult decision to leave. But on leaving there, it just so happened that some of the people that I'd worked with in that business had left and gone and set up their own businesses. So they were already working for themselves. And they contacted me and said, "We've heard you're leaving.
Very good.
Can you help me with my accounts, please?"
Love
So
it.
my very first clients happened to be people who were colleagues of mine, who I'm still working with today. And actually, I work alongside one of the sister organisations of where I used to work as well. So I'm still supporting some of that original industry, but also the first clients I really had were people who I already knew, so which was really fortunate. I hadn't gone seeking them. They found me, which was great. And from there, I'd say it grew from either people they knew or actually just getting out and doing some networking was my first port of call. So that's with the first I say wave of clients. I make it sound like there was a whole load of them that just fell onto me naturally. That wasn't how it was. But the first main group of people, I'd say, were through networking and through the word of mouth from people I knew.
Yeah, and how did you find it? I mean, because setting up on your own is kind of a pretty big step. I mean, we always talk about it, but I mean, there is a moment where you make that decision, and it's quite a dramatic decision, isn't it?
It was funny because I'd been out for dinner with some friends in kind of the July time, and we were talking about school because her son was also going to the same school my daughter was going to, and she was self-employed, and she just sort of turned around and said to me, "You know what? You could do this. You could do what you do for yourself and make it work around your family." And I sort of thought, I don't think I'm brave enough to do that. And I think a week later, I messaged her just to say, "I've done it." She said, "You've done what?" And I said, "I've handed my notice in." Because in that week, from talking to her, just had all these ideas, thinking I could do this. And I had a chat with my husband and sort of said, if it doesn't work, we'll be okay. We can, you can go back. I'm sure you can go back to doing something similar to what you're doing. People always need support in accounts. And you sit there thinking, "Oh, maybe I could go back if I have to," but.
So you haven't gone back. So, but what have you learned along the way? Because it's never a smooth ride. I mean, there are bumps and all kinds of things.
There have been lots of. Well, I suppose, when I properly got into working solely for people outside of my old company, because I did sort of some consulting work for them for a few months after I left for the handover, which did help me out a lot. We were heading in, it was sort of January 2020. So obviously the world was about to change at that point, and I'd just gone out and started networking face to face with people, and then suddenly everything stopped, as we know, in the March, and everything went online, which I think probably did me a favour, because at that point, of course, I wasn't overly busy and overrun with clients, but it was a good way to start. I mean, there were, as we know, a lot of businesses. So, although there were businesses struggling at that time, there were a lot of sort of fresh startups going on around that time as well, and so it was a good opportunity for me to sort of meet new people through various forms of online networking, which wasn't really known so much before then in the networking groups that I'd been attending. And suddenly you had this audience, didn't you, of all these extra people who you wouldn't have ordinarily met. So that did help. But yeah, things, I have had moments of major self-doubt, still have them, as we kind of had a brief chat before, that you always have moments thinking, why on earth am I doing this? But I think it's, there's been issues. I mean, I've been very lucky that I haven't had all that many run-ins or problem clients. There's always things that you feel could have gone better, but then there's things where I think if they're out of your control, you can't. Some things you just you try and do your best with, and I suppose you can only do as much as you can. And
so you were talking earlier on, when off camera, and we were having a bit of a laugh about confidence and that sort of thing, and you said that you'd sold makeup at one point. I don't know whether that was a sort of side job or whatever, but in all seriousness, it's quite interesting to kind of hear people's backgrounds and what they've learned along the way, and that's quite an interesting one.
That was one of the reasons that I had the confidence to start on my own. I mean, like I say, my daughter was quite young. I think I'd got to a point, it was around 2017 when I started doing that, and my daughter was about 3, and I very much felt like I'd lost a bit of my identity being mum, trying to work still almost a full-time job, just in part-time hours. I felt like I'd lost a bit of me, and so delving into the world of makeup, I was introduced to, it was a network marketing business, which is still going now, and I still love all the products, and it was something I kind of put myself into as something for me, and by doing that I learned quite a lot of different skills with regard, you're taught everything about marketing and being present on Facebook, and just social media really is the main place that all was happening. And I ended up doing videos of myself putting makeup on. The person who wouldn't have dared leave the house without any makeup on was suddenly sat there at 7 o'clock in the morning with a bare face thinking, right, I'm going to put my makeup on today. And I'd got to the point where I think, I don't really care what anybody else thinks I look like. I'd got confident enough to think, right, I'm doing this for me. And I think if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't have given me the confidence to think, right, I'm going to give this a try with the accounting. It gave me, again, from doing that, was other people had said to me, well, you see, you've got so much more confidence from doing that. I think you could use that in a future career for yourself to work things around what you want. So I sadly don't have time to do that anymore, so I did stop doing that. So because you can't fit everything, it's only so many hours in a day, but still have a fondness for makeup.
Yeah. But you continued with that after you started the practice as well, didn't you, for a little while?
I did, yes. I did continue it for a year or two.
Was it generating income? Was it sort of a side hustle to sort of help?
It was, yes. It was, yeah. It was selling, promoting products and sort of online and sales You know, you can do parties, the usual kind of similar models as they were at the time with makeup parties and things like that, trying to promote.
But in all seriousness, it is quite important, that, because it is about getting out there, and it is about your first sort of role of sales, isn't it? And sort of being able to talk to people and not necessarily bludgeon them to death, but kind of talk to them around products and why they should be using it.
I'm not a hard sale person at all. So I think to a certain extent I found it a bit difficult, because I mean, I'm obviously the same now. I'd never force something on somebody if they didn't need it as a service, or if they didn't want it. But it definitely made me think more about how I was offering things to people, I think. Better ways of trying to market myself. And actually, you're taught a lot during all that, you know, those kind of roles, although no like trust that exists out there. People buy from people. That was the first place that was really kind of sold to me as an idea. And being authentically you, that was the whole point with doing my makeup in front of however many people, thinking this is me, like it or leave it. And I think that's the same now, because people will come to you as an individual in your business because of you, and then obviously the team you build and the values that you have. In
how many are in the business now?
There's 5 of us all together.
Wow.
All kind of by chance, I suppose, all kind of women with children working around school, because it all kind of, you know, we know each other's struggles, and we work quite flexibly so that we can obviously all get things done in the, you know, 2 deadlines and on time, but being very conscious of people having lives, and things will happen, and, you know, we just make it work, really. So it's all,
I think that's,
but that was my whole point of me, you know, working for myself, totally understanding that that's a big part of life.
And how have you learned the skills to run your own practice and employ staff and manage them? Because it's not something you were doing previously, is it?
No. In my previous role, I did have a management role, as in a line management role. I had studied the ILM. I've got an ILM qualification of leadership and management, although I think, looking at my style now, maybe people wouldn't necessarily think I do. I mean, I'm always I don't know, how do you learn how to run a business? I think a lot of it is trial and error. In all honesty, I think it often is. I am currently undergoing coaching, however, with you know, accounting, the Accountants Mastermind, to help me improve my skills, and, you know, help me to I think keep myself in check, to be honest, but also learn the skills that I need to move things forward. It's just an ongoing.
What mistakes have you made? Are there any kind of mistakes that you can share with us that, you know, others may learn from? Or, you know, there is tiny stuff, isn't there, all along? It's like around people or software, or
I mean, there's mistakes that I always think I should have learned from by now, that you continue to do. Sometimes you think, why am I still doing that?
You're not alone, Isobel. You're not alone.
I know, and the stuff you think, I did that last time, why have I done that again? So I can't necessarily mention anything in particular in that regard, but I think I'm one very much still for not really understanding or knowing my own worth. I think as well is a big problem that a big issue that I still face, and again, I know a lot of people do as well. And at the beginning, you're very much, I think, thinking that you just want any client who's available. And I think after you've spent a certain amount of time working with different businesses, you can start to understand which industries you like working with, and what types of clients, how big they are, have they got a team, what kind of support do they need from you, and then you can maybe hone in a bit more on those sorts of clients. And then when other clients appear looking for services and they don't quite fit what you want to do, don't always necessarily have to say yes. which is something I'm trying. I'm still, I'm still a sucker for somebody who's, desperately in need, and because I want to help people. So I myself have to have a word with myself and think about,
So who do you focus on then? Is there a specific kind of
Well,
target
the majority of our clients are small, well, classed as small businesses. Quite a lot of sort of direct to managed businesses. So maybe one person running their own limited company, or with a small team. Quite a lot of sole traders as well. So the companies themselves aren't, they're of the level where they're trying to grow. They're looking to grow their business and just needing some support, really, with understanding what their numbers are telling them, which is something I'm, having come from the management accounts background, that's something that I quite like to help them look at. So, offering bespoke, services to those individual businesses tends to be.
Is there a certain personality type? Because I mean that's in many ways that's quite broad, but obviously you've honed it down and kind of, I think we all have those spidey senses, don't we? Is there something that sometimes you think, oh no, is.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so one of the things I really enjoy and I feel like I've made a difference is when somebody has. I mean, I feel recently we've had quite a lot of people come to us who felt like they felt in a panic. They've been in a mess. They've not known where their numbers are. Maybe they've been let down before, and their figures aren't in the right. They need a bit of a tidy up, should we say?
Yeah.
Things maybe haven't gone so well before, and we've almost been on a bit of a rescue mission to help them get out of the stress that they're in, and knowing that everything is now dealt with, is on time, that they understand what expenses I can put through, all of those questions that you get all the time, and people just wanting the reassurance that they're doing it right. They're the kind of clients who have found us recently. I think, again, a lot of that through word of mouth of helping other people in similar situations who have been struggling and have just, the burden of accounts for them is just overwhelming. They seem to be the kind of clients who I kind of relish helping, really, because I feel like we've made a difference. We really helped them. They could, when somebody does say, "Oh, actually, I had a better night's sleep after speaking to you," you feel, "Oh, I've made a difference. Thank goodness for that." They've got peace of mind, and they're not worried about going to prison now, for not getting their tax in on time. Because they're all the worries that people seem to, they have. They're worried, am I going to go to prison? That seems to be
you almost prefer clients who have that thought process to those who think, well, all my mates are getting away with stuff. What can you help me get away with? And I imagine
you do obviously get those as well. Quite a lot. A lot of my friend told me that I could put my holiday through, all these sorts of things.
But I mean, it's if you've got people coming to you like that, I mean, obviously there's that kind of peace of mind, and you're like, oh, I feel like I made a difference. But it can also be quite stressful if you've got a lot of people like that, who aren't really in control, and it's kind of like, whoa, this becomes like a counselling session, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been quite nice that the relationship that I've had with people, we always sort of have a conversation with them. There's been times where people have had some, for example, their tax return's gone through to them, and they've sort of they've messaged me and said, how on earth have what is this? I wasn't expecting this to be here. And you have a phone call with them and have a meeting with them, and explaining everything in the level of detail that's not going to be overwhelming and information they don't need to know, but giving that personable, sort of judgment-free advice actually is something I feel, people, will often come to us and say, oh, but I felt a bit stupid with my last accountant because, I don't really know anything about accounts. I'm thinking, why should you? You're a plumber, for example. I don't know how to change a tap. Why should you know what a profit and loss looks like? So I think it's, just being very open and honest with people, and also, telling them that I don't know everything. And I'll be honest about that, because you can't know everything. And if there is something I don't know, I will find out. And if I can't find out, I'll find somebody who does know to help people, because I think just being honest about things as well is really important. I think that's what makes the relationship better, so much better with your clients, if you're both honest with each other.
Yeah. Where do you sit with kind of like software and cloud accounting, and that we have a lot of conversations about those, and I'm totally aware about the digital accountancy show happening this week, where there's all kinds of softwares and technologies out there. I mean, how do you get support from that sort of thing, and how do your clients cope with it? Do they?
Yes, I mean, we obviously, being aware that the income tax from April next year for the bigger clients, I mean, it's something we do encourage. I always encourage people to go down the software route where they can. You still have people who want to use spreadsheets or just hand you bits of paper.
But you're principally a zero practice with a bit of free agent, is that right?
Yes. So we use zero and free agent. We probably use zero slightly more, because obviously, I mean, at the moment it has a few more integrations for with other softwares, but we use free agent as well. We do offer support on other softwares, but in all honesty, I don't know it as well, and so I feel I'd be able to give a better service with those main softwares. I do not know my way around the other ones, but yes, I mean, I suppose for us, it was quite a big cost for us, was software, because knowing really that digital is the future anyway. I mean, eventually I think that limited companies will probably all have to have everything in a software as well. I mean, obviously I know things are changing with Companies House soon, and everything's got to be submitted digitally, which we do anyway because of the softwares we use. But I just think saving, I've got a filing cabinet over there in the corner, and that is the only one I have in the office, because I think I don't want all the bits of paper. I'm guilty of printing things out, but also it's just keeping everything so much tidier in the digital world now, having all of your receipts and bank information and transactional data all in one place. So I think it's a good idea. I know it's difficult for some clients who don't understand it or who don't want to understand it, but again, that's where we will step in and take over that part for them and guide them through what they do need to do, and we can do the rest if it gets too overwhelming. If you photograph your receipt in for me, we'll take it from there. That's for a lot of them how it works.
Yeah. So I think that's great support for clients. What would you say are the other secrets to your success, as in the success of the practice?
That's a great question. I don't know.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
To answer.
Yeah.
Is it just you in terms of your personality, your
well?
Appeal? Is it your website?
I'd like to think it's because of the approach that we have, the being approachable. And I mean, whenever I go into networking or somewhere where you're stood around a table and people say, so what is it you do? Part of me sort of sinks and thinks, oh God, I've got to tell them I'm an accountant. Or used to at one point. I just think, oh, I've got to tell them I'm an accountant. But now I say, oh, I'm an accountant, and I'll carry on the conversation. And then later on in the conversation, people will always say, you're not like any other, another accountant I've met. I'm not saying I'm different to everybody. I think it's that stereotype though, isn't it? Oh, I expected accountants to be very boring people and very, not be up for a joke and smiling and wearing a grey suit is what I'm thinking. Well, I'm not a suit person. I want to feel relaxed and I'll sit in the office and wear jeans and a t-shirt because that's how I feel comfortable working a lot of the time. And I think it's also quite you know, people can relate to that, and I think it's just sort of having that relationship with people where you're approachable and so you don't have the judgment there. That I think that's where the success lies. If people want to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think just from my perspective, I kind of feel like you've got the management accounting side, you know, so there's quite serious kind of corporate experience. But then as we've talked about your other sideline businesses and how that's kind of upped your marketing, it has given you quite a serious kind of inroad into marketing, which I think is really good and sets you up really well. Mark, what are your observations?
Well, I think it's the fact that you know that you are different to the stereotype, that people have this preconception of accountants. And I suspect also that the natural selling skills you developed between full-time work and starting your accounting practice has given you an edge on building those relationships with people in order for them to trust you and want to become your appoint you as their accountant. And the fact that you've got the management accounting training and background as well is always helpful, because it means you're looking at the current and immediate future rather than just looking backwards.
Yes. That is what I've found is a good, I say, selling point. I don't want it, you know, to sound like sales, but my colleague, my other accountant who worked with me, worked in practice before. I didn't. I worked in industry before, and so between us, she has more of the knowledge of preparing accounts and, you know, tax in that way, looking
environment.
Backwards. I've spent a lot of time doing budgeting and forecasting in the past. But obviously, you know, I'd like to be able to put those skills into more use. I still find there are a lot of people, particularly smaller business, maybe, who think, I just want to know how much tax I've got to pay. And no matter how much I try and sell how important it is to understand how you got there so that you can change it moving forward, it's still a little bit of a struggle, but that's the goal. You know, the dream is to help people more in that regard.
Absolutely, and helping them to appreciate whether or not they're actually making a profit on what they're doing on a day basis. You know, because it's not just about money in the bank. But hey, we could sidetrack onto that. It's been a delight having you on the podcast, Isobel. We're getting to the end now. So, how can listeners find out more about you and your practice? LinkedIn, your website? What's the best?
Yes, we are. We have a website which I put together. So please be kind on its appearance. So www.ijcfinance.co.uk. Me on LinkedIn, and IJC Finance is also on LinkedIn as well. Instagram, although, you know, I'm my trusty colleague helps me with that, because I just find there's only so many times I feel like I can appear holding a calculator on something like that. So I find it a bit difficult. Facebook, and, you know,
maybe holding a calculator and doing it with one hand and doing your makeup with the other hand.
That could be a new marketing approach, couldn't it?
I love that.
Instagram, calculator, mascara. Which is it?
What about you, Philippa? How can people find out more about you and Insight 101?
So you can find me on LinkedIn or on my website, insight101.co.uk. And interestingly, what Isobel said there, that's what I do to support accountants and bookkeepers. It's to find that angle which makes them stand out and that makes them different. Those experiences that have gone before, to kind of make up where they where they are now, where they are now. And at the moment, I'm focusing very much on websites, because a lot of the time you'll go onto somebody's website, you know, whether it's a practice or not, and you won't actually understand beyond the accounting bit, the tax, etc., what they actually stand for, who they are, and who their ideal target is. So I'm supporting them to actually tell that story better and to make it much more obvious, so that when they have leads that go onto their website, you know, they're converting those. So that's the sort of thing that I'm working on at the moment, and it's doing really well for people. So if anybody's interested, get in touch. Mark, tell us a little bit more about how we can get in touch with you.
Yeah, well, online everywhere. I'm Bookmark Lee. Even my business card is a bookmark. Isobel mentioned that she's getting coaching through a group. I love mentoring and supporting people like Isobel who are running their own practice but haven't operated in practice previously. It's one of the things that people turn to me for. It's not easy to run your own practice. And it can be lonely and isolating. But if you'd like things to feel easier, better, or more on your terms, that's exactly where I come in. Whether it's better clients, fewer headaches, more profit, I'm always happy to have a chat. No strings attached. And some of those ad hoc conversations lead on to regular one-to-one working, or some might decide to join the Soul Practice Club, an online group of sole practitioners. I call it exclusive, but I don't think any of them feel exclusive. They're always people who join are always quite surprised that everyone else is a bit like them. They only wish that they joined earlier. And sometimes just one chat is all that's needed, and there is no follow-up. Anyway, I'd encourage listeners to reach out and connect with both Philippa and me on LinkedIn, and Isobel too. And do please follow the podcast pages on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Yeah, well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But thank you, Isobel, very much for spending that 30 minutes with us. Our thanks again to our sponsors of the podcast, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know you heard about Pinnacle Global on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast.
And
yes.
Thanks to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using the website findataxadvisor.online, where you can also access their weekly tax tips written especially for general practitioner accountants.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, please share the love online, subscribe and leave a review on Apple, Spotify or YouTube, and let us obviously have your direct feedback too. It all helps to broaden the reach of the podcast. Do also please contact either Mark or myself if you would like to be interviewed on a future podcast, or even if there's somebody you'd love to hear guest. We're quite happy to go and find them and ask if they'd like to be interviewed. It would be great.
Thanks very much, Philippa. Well done. Thank you so much, Isobel. It's been a delight getting to know you on the podcast, even though it's only half an hour. It was great. But until next time on the Accountant Success Secrets podcast, or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life, bye-bye for now.
Bye.